Hey, welcome back, everyone, to Guy Talk for the Uninformed. Of course, I am Jimbo.
I'm Danno.
Hey, welcome back. This is going to be the follow-up to our last episode where we talked about gym etiquette, stereotypes, and we kind of teased the main topic, which is supposed to be women and the gym, and kind of hovering around more specifically meeting women at the gym. But we didn't really get to that because we, at about an hour and a half, we didn't even quite get to that topic. So that's what this one's going to be all about. And I think that's really kind of the crux of how the gym even got brought up, because we were talking about women and kind of the conundrum of women at the gym and again, specifically meeting women there. But I just wanted to just start out by posing, like, what do you think, like, the concept of meeting women at the gym, like, what are your thoughts, Danno?
Well, first, I'd like to introduce my drink here.
Oh, yeah. What are you drinking?
A Paloma. I'm going with the Paloma. Been on a grapefruit kick lately, and it's a nice summer drink, so rocking that.
I assume the long dong might have had a little influence on that.
I almost made a long dong for tonight, actually.
Oh, man.
But I didn't have the white rum or the triple sec, or else I would have been there.
Should we even explain what that is? Or maybe one of our viewers is going to steal the recipe? No.
No, we should explain what it is.
Okay. Yeah. So this is like, how many years ago was this? It was a fluke thing that happened at volleyball. We play on a sand volleyball league, and at this bar called Mama G's, and we were going to get a Long Island iced tea, and they screwed it up. I think originally instead of
it's for a Long Beach,
and instead of cranberry, it was like pineapple or something like that. Because it wasn't grapefruit right out of the chute, but the second time we're like, oh, this isn't too bad, and then the second time I'm like, well, let's try it with grapefruit instead.
Yep.
And then it was like this like religious experience. It was
now
so
we're
good.
On record on YouTube.
Yes.
With the fact that we are the first person to invent this recipe, so it's going to be documented.
Yes. So essentially, take a Long Island iced tea, but instead of Coke as the mixer, or a Long Beach, but instead of cranberry as the mixer, that's grapefruit juice, and it's absolutely delicious. And Danno froze. Oh, he's back. You completely, I'll have to show you this. You completely froze. You're like, it was right after I said, but instead of, the mixer, it's grapefruit juice, and nothing. Could you hear me?
Your audio is going out wonky, but yeah, you're breaking up here and there, but yeah, I saw my feed live, so something must have went haywire.
Okay. Well, you're back, but yes, so I'll just back up again. So essentially, the long dong, as we coined it, is a Long Island iced tea, but instead, or a Long Beach, but instead of the mixer being, in the case of a Long Island iced tea, it'd be Coke or a cola, and in the case of a Long Beach, it would be cranberry juice. But in this case, it's grapefruit juice, and it is awesome. It's so refreshing, so good, and so dangerous.
Yeah, I wonder, maybe it's already something, but it's just not in the mainstream. Like, people don't know about it,
right?
So somebody might,
Yeah, and not to toot our own horns, but how many times has someone come out there and been like, what are you drinking? And I'm like, well, it's this, or it's happened to you too. And they're like, wow, that sounds really good. I'll get one of those. Yeah. Like, to the point where we're like, you just put this on the cocktail menu.
Well, it's our bartenders, the same bartenders there every single night. It's her favorite thing to make. Like, she just has a smile on her face whenever she's making it for us.
And we're the reason why they stock up on grapefruit juice too. Exactly. But yes, the long dong, as we'd coined it, because all the other long whatever drink variations seem to be taken, and that one was one of the first ones that just came to mind. And it's it's a nice play on one of many penis jokes. So
Yeah.
But yes, so for me,
what are you drinking there?
I am drinking a lemon drop martini, which is actually a canned cocktail. One of the Cutwater cocktails. Their lemon drop martini is very good. Actually, a lot of me and Carrie get a lot of these. All their stuff, for the most part, there's a few duds, but they make a really good canned cocktail. This one being in one of those, and I decided to pour it into, because you can't have a martini without a martini glass, right? So like you said before we went live, it's a little cloudy, not terrible, but it's delicious.
Right.
Yeah, it's delicious. Yeah, and it's a little bit lighter octane. I think it's 11%, so it's a little bit lighter octane than.
You can have 6 of those compared to 1 or 2 martinis, you know?
Yeah. So speaking of that, so Carrie made this. She does these. They call it bunko. I think it's this like dice game that her and a bunch of women play on a monthly basis. So like there's like 12 women, and like one person hosts at their house each month, and it's kind of like where you have I don't know exactly how the game works, but there's a lot of rotations. So it's like one-on-one, you're rolling dice, and then you move on. And so there's cocktails, and there's and hors d'oeuvres, or sometimes a dinner. And so it rotates. And so this month was her month, and they decided to do, it was like because of Juneteenth and stuff, they did kind of like a martini theme. And so she made all these martinis, like big jugs of martinis. She did she did Cosmo, she did lemon drop, and I had, when she was making it, I was like her taste tester. And it was, she makes stuff strong. It was high octane, and so
it's hard to make those batches and like have them pan out.
Yeah,
like, I mean,
yes, there absolutely is. And hers, I was tempted to, because there's a little bit left, to pour one of those out, but I didn't want to get like half an hour in and just be a sloppy mess. So I'm like, I'll go with the canned cocktail version of it. So Cutwater lemon drop it is. So
okay,
so there you go.
Fair enough.
But cheers.
Cheers. Now, what was that question you asked me 10 minutes ago?
The question is, when it comes to like, what are, I'll just put it to you this way. Meeting women at the gym, what are your thoughts on that? Like, what do you think about that concept of and I think we're both referring to like a relationship, like dating, like meeting the girl at the gym.
Yeah. And we're in our single men frame of mind.
Right.
It's like for this conversation. So like, you know, every morning you're ready to go to the gym. I'm not thinking about it, but like there's certain girls that are attractive at the gym that I would love to start dating. So it's always like, yeah, that could happen, but it's like, I'm not planning an approach. I have no idea where it would happen, anything like that. But it's like, yeah, there's dateable girls at the gym that
right
I could start a conversation with, but you know, where do you do that basically?
Yeah. What's the opportunity, and how does that, like, how is that feasible?
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm kind of with you there. I think it's, to us at least, when we've talked about it, it seems like kind of a conundrum in the sense that, okay, everyone's there essentially, you like, to work out. They're there to do their daily routine, to get in and get out. It's not necessarily, I mean, maybe to some people it's a social thing, but for the most part, I in my mind, I'm just assuming that, like me, everyone else is there to get their work done and get out.
Right.
And so how many opportunities are there to interact with someone, build some rapport? You know, maybe if you're a personal trainer to some caliber, but like there's just not the same opportunities. Even if you're working, if you're working with someone, there's interactions and a lot more opportunities for interactions to where you could build up some sort of rapport to get
That's
to that
probably
point.
against the code, right? Like it's probably like a teacher can't date their student. I mean, it's not that severe, but still, it's like
Right.
you could, but it's not gonna look good if it goes awry if you're a trainer and you're
Yeah, and people already have their opinions, and I think uh you know it's balanced one way or the other. But as far as like a work relationship goes, I think the common uh conception is that those never work out, or things always go bad because then you have to be around that person. But at least there's lots of opportunities without coming off as creepy or awkward.
That's the hardest part. Yeah. I mean, so let's just say there's not a meeting grounds at your gym, right? Where a lounge, everyone's sitting and talking. Like everyone's just there to do their business and work out. Like,
yeah, I think
usually their number one priority. They're not there to
mingle.
find somebody to date.
Yeah.
So So where do you do it? Like between sets, if you need to borrow a piece of equipment, maybe you can start a small conversation and then build from that.
Yeah, maybe like, hi, I'm Jim. If you need a spotter, but the only spot, at least at my gym, that I could see potentially, and it's got to be a complete coincidence unless you're a stalker of some sort, would be like where they have like the little bins and stuff where you put your gym bag, your change of clothes or whatever, your shoes or whatever. So they have those, and so there might be a little bit of interaction as you're coming and going, but that is like very
once you get into the workout, then it's tough. Like you might go get a drink of water, like go to the drinking fountain.
Well, then on top of that, how many people are wearing headphones or earbuds and listening to their own music? So you could be like you can make this eye contact and stuff, and they could be like, huh?
It could be a perfect situation where you're right about to say something, and then you're like, oh, earbuds. When I see earbuds, there's no talking to them. Like I just assume they're listening to something, they don't want to be bugged.
Yeah, it's there's just it seems like such a minefield, and to get to the point of, all right, I know this person's name, or I've said enough things that maybe now I can make an approach. I don't know. It doesn't. I don't want to say it's impossible, but it seems like so much tiptoeing and work to get there versus other avenues. Like even like if you're in your everyday life running on errands, we've talked about this before, but meeting someone at a grocery store or the bank or any of your normal day-to-day errands where there's a little small talk, but you're not really intruding. You don't feel like you're really intrusive. And then on top of that, if things go awry, you're never going to see that. Chances are you're never going to see that person again. Here, if things get awkward or weird, then one of you probably has to change your schedule if they're assuming they're a regular and you see this person you have.
Well, that's like maybe there's no minimum, but let's say even to notice somebody goes to your gym, just to notice that they're there at the same time you usually takes like a month, maybe 2 months, just to be like, oh, that person's been here. We're overlapping. Then on top of that, just building up that repertoire, maybe talking, small chat every once in a while. And then, so, you guys are going to the gym for 6 months and then you ask them out. It's like, who's gonna stop going at this time now?
Right.
Or is this awkward all the way around?
Yeah. We talked about this before, when it comes to, I don't even want to call it etiquette, but just being polite and not rude. You don't want to stare at anyone. And I say anyone because it's not just women. Like I find myself, thank goodness that there's TV screens, because the only thing that I have between sets, so like when I'm not doing whatever repetition or exercise, there's anywhere between a minute to maybe 2 minutes, depending on the exercise, of rest, where I'm taking a drink of water. I'll make a note in my little logbook for progress, and then the rest of the time, where are my eyes going? There, and there's mirrors everywhere too, right? So like,
Oh yeah.
I'm looking up at one of the TVs, even if I'm not
See,
interested
we don't
in
have
it.
TVs.
You don't?
We don't have that excuse. No.
Oh shit.
So it's either head down, head up, like just look around the gym or look in the mirror. But then as soon as you look in the mirror, it's like, oh,
Yeah.
you're caught, looking at somebody else.
Yeah, and I'm trying so hard not to make eye contact with anyone, not like, okay, a brief, sure, that's fine. But it's so easy. Like you absolutely don't want to come off as staring. And so that's a very short period of time. And the gym depending on how busy it is, there's not a lot of empty space there. Like, what do you do? Especially if you don't have, like, I don't bring my phone. Well, I leave it in my gym bag because I don't want that distraction. Since I'm not listening to music, I don't want that distraction. So I leave that there. So if I don't have a phone to play on, to pretend to play on, whatever, I don't have headphones on to mess with. Like, what do you do with your eyes?
I know. I feel like we're in a small minority of people that do that. Like usually they have their headphones in or they have their phone. That's what they do in between sets. But yeah, if you don't have that, it's kind of tough.
I'm sorry, I lost you there for a second.
We're talking about girls here. But at the same time, it's like guys, like, you look in the mirror suddenly, then just like make eye contact with another guy, and it's like, oh, okay, you don't want to make that eye contact twice, just because then it gets more awkward every single time that you do it.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And when like one of the things that I always find myself doing is I don't like to, if I'm on a machine or anything else, I don't like to sit during my rest period. I'm usually standing or I'm pacing a little bit, all the while hovering around the same space because you don't want to act like you're done with it, get too far away. So yeah, it's a lot of, they have a few TVs. I've been to, it's no like Planet Fitness or something where it's like a Buffalo Wild Wings where there's just TVs everywhere. They have a couple here, a couple there, and they're in pairs. It's weird. They're in pairs, and on one screen will be like a slideshow and advertisement for the gym. So it'll be like a slideshow of like members with like their trainer or something like that, and then there will be like an advertisement for like a class or something like that, and then the other screen might have like a show, might be like one of the cable channels or a sports thing or something, and like that's usually one of my go-tos. But otherwise, or I'm eyeballing, kind of like if I nearing the end of an exercise, I'm eyeballing the next piece of equipment that I need, that I want to be on, to see if it's going to be available or not. But that's really it. It's a lot of and all maybe, just because you don't want to come off as creepy or awkward to other people. Maybe
I'm paranoid, but so one of the main places where I'm sitting, they have the benches and they have the barbells or dumbbells, sorry. And like you're sitting down, you're doing whatever you are, and then when you're resting, there's people walking in front of you to get their dumbbells either way. It's like, it doesn't matter if the girl's attractive, unattractive, if there's a guy walking in front. It's like, I'm looking forward, and then I see somebody like coming across.
Head down?
Yeah, then it's just like, nope.
I do the same thing, man.
I just don't want them to think I'm looking at them, even though it's like,
I do the exact same thing. In fact, the more attractive the woman, the more eager I am to avert my eyes. Right. It's ridiculous, but like I want to be, it's almost, I hadn't really thought about this, but maybe there's like a hint of, it's almost like I want to come off as so focused on what I'm doing, on myself, so the confidence, all the things. I want to impress her by not looking at her. Like, is that
for me?
Really?
It's more like a polite thing for me. I'm not really thinking of that direction, but I can see where you're going with that.
Like, wow, all these other guys are are paying so much attention to me. Yeah, but you know, because that's kind of plays into that stereotype of the guy there that's just there to impress people. But yeah, like I'm usually looking or very aware of the presence of especially women, and yeah, the eyes, yeah. Honestly, when I feel, I don't want to say safe, but like where I'm not as worried about like my eye direction and stuff, or when like for instance today on a Saturday at like 2 p.m, the gym's pretty quiet, but there's a fair amount of like seniors there, and that's usually when I feel the most comfortable, because like I can just kind of do my thing and stuff, and like sometimes, you know, like an older woman or something will ask me a question or whatever, and I just feel absolutely comfortable. Still not, you don't like, I don't want to be rude or anything like that, but yeah, when the gym is full, I'm just, where do I look? And you know, like you could even, you know, how many couples come to the gym together there? That does happen fairly often, and sometimes I'm like, geez, I don't want to even come close to glancing at her, because I know she came with this guy, and who knows what's going to set him off. Yeah.
Well, that's like, so there's a couple at our gym, maybe more than that, but you know, one that's there about the same time I am. Like sometimes their girl will just like walk across, and then it's like there's movement, so I'm just like looking at the movement, and then like I see it's her, and then I like look away, and I always feel like the boyfriend that's right behind her is just like, keep your eyes off her, buddy.
Yeah. He's breathing down your neck. Yeah. I'm sure. Oh, go ahead. I was gonna say, like, I'm sure like we blow this thing out of proportion, and you kind of build things up in your head, but the crux of it all is you just don't want to be rude or come off or make anyone feel awkward. And yeah, but I think you're right about the minority thing, where I certainly, even people of all ages, most people have their phone with them, and or headphones / earbuds of some sort. Yeah, definitely. Yeah. Definitely it's not the norm to go in there and no phone, no headphones, just your water bottle, and in my case, my little handwritten logbook.
So what do you think about the girls that come in with, you know, short shorts, showing their belly, like showing off their body, basically? There's a lot of different angles to that. Like, they could just be, that's how they are comfortable, you know, or you're going to sweat a lot, so you might as well wear that.
I think I told this story last time, but there was like I don't know, a month or so ago. It was right before, it was actually, I think, the same day we recorded our last one, right before Cinco de Mayo. And there were 2 or 3, I'm terrible with ages, man, but they couldn't have been more than like 20 years old. Probably 17, 18, if I was to venture a guess. And it was obvious on many levels that they were brand spanking new to the gym, or had never set foot in a gym before, because they weren't wearing any sort of,
going to come up then.
They weren't wearing the appropriate clothing. It was very skimpy. Like, look at me. Like, they were dressed like as if they're going to like the beach, not to go work out. And it was like 3 or 4 girls. They were all kind of giggly. They did a couple little things, mostly talked, and then they left. And so it was one of those things where it's like, okay, I know what you're trying to do, and you're not so like, it didn't really faze me. But on the flip side of that, there's quite a range, like you were saying, of that sort of attire, or, you know, dress code. I don't know what how you'd put it, but for the most part, it's everyone at my gym is, at least the regulars that are easily identifiable, are there to work out. Now, some of them wear skimpier things than others, But if you've got if you're proud of your physique, maybe that's
Well, that's
something
just it.
too.
Like, I think that's the thing is you just never know what the other person's doing. Like, maybe they're just happy with their body. They want to show off their body. Maybe they're more comfortable working out like that. Or maybe they're there to try to pick up somebody. Like, you don't know. That's why it's like,
Oh yeah,
it's
you don't
so
know.
disclosing. The loop is
And
so hard
again,
to
maybe
know,
they
like,
just want the eyes on them, but their significant other, is trained there too, or they just want the, like, I obviously I have a girlfriend, but there are times where it's like, man, I'm feeling really good, and if
right.
like I compliments are
Just rip your
compliments.
shirt off.
You know what? It's like, yeah, it's like today the three women that were like in their in their upper 60s, like
That's a gym
yeah.
I would want to go to. That would be fun.
But yeah, like to your point, you just never know. It's real easy to make assumptions in your head. But again, even though these two women I'm talking about are wearing stuff that I would consider to be a little more scantily, that like they're in damn good shape, and they're training hard. Yeah, I have. So again, like, don't you want to, kind of goes around to celebrating the small victories. You work hard for your aesthetics, your body and stuff. So at what point do you get to reap those rewards, short of going to Venice Beach or something like that?
Yeah.
For me, like, typically I've never been you're more of a, like, take your shirt off, play sand volleyball guy than I've ever been. I've slowly started changing, but I'm proud of where I'm at. Like, I feel good about my body, but I've never been, I don't know if it's a confidence thing or if I've just never been that guy that walks around shirtless all the time.
Yeah. Well, for me, it's not a confidence thing at all. Like, it's a comfortability thing. Like,
Yeah.
I take my shirt off to go running or to play volleyball just because I don't want to get my clothes sweaty. And
Sure.
that's really the main reason. Like, it's not to show off my body, but
Yeah. Well,
maybe a little bit, I guess. But mostly just not to get sweaty.
yeah, no, that makes sense. And as we've seen, there's definitely a spectrum of gentlemen that at volleyball that are more than happy that are potentially in that same boat, or they just are very happy in their own skin. So
yeah, more power to them.
Absolutely.
So, have you ever met anybody who has gotten a date at the gym?
Well, my good friend Al is the one and only. I tried to think, I thought for sure I could think of at least a handful of people, but the more I thought about it, like, I couldn't come up with specifics. The only person I can think of off the top of my head is my buddy Al, who, he dated a girl that he met. He only met. Well, I don't know if she was a regular at his gym, but he did date a girl that he met at the time at the gym that he was a member of, and they dated for a long time. It didn't work. It didn't last. He didn't end up marrying her.
How he went about it, his approach at the gym. Do you have any intel?
I don't know the specifics, other than I think my memory's probably a little bit cloudy here because this is so long ago. This is like 2007, 2006. But I want to say that they were talking. It wasn't during the actual workout. It was like at the entrance, where they had their stuff, and they talked there. It wasn't like she approached him or he approached her mid workout. It was that interaction near the entrance where where your shoes and stuff would be, or your lockers or whatever.
Yeah.
That was at the old town, not the old town, the old Midtown Square Mall when they had that
Yeah.
that gym there.
Okay.
I think that's the one that they, yeah. And then he ended up changing
That's
right after that.
that's how I feel. Like, even if I got into like a good repertoire, a good feeling about a girl at the gym, I would be, if I just randomly ran into her at a coffee shop or like at a grocery store, like that's where I would make the move.
Yes. Yeah.
You know, instead of 5 weeks later at the gym. Like, I don't know.
Yeah.
It feels a lot.
You'd have to put some time, a lot of small talk, like little bursts of small talk over a period of
Yeah.
time to get to that. And, I mean, if it works for you, all the more power to you. To me, it just seems like a very uphill battle.
Yeah, absolutely.
I don't know.
Absolutely.
But yeah, so that's why I call it kind of the conundrum of women at the gym. And I'd be curious what they think on the flip scale. Cause I feel like you don't hear too many like war stories where it's like, oh, she came off as a creep at the gym or it's usually the male
That's
aggressor.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. Yeah.
But I would love to hear that perspective. Be like, oh, I went, but because everyone's there to do some work, some serious stuff, and it's not like it's not an activity where you could easily be interrupted. It's not going to offend anyone. You're not picking something off the shelf. You're exerting yourself, and if you get distracted, well, of course, mid-exercise, but even in your like little rest period, you could be so focused, or you could just be listening to something, and like,
yeah.
I think there's just so much going against you that there's better avenues for meeting someone, but it's clearly a feasible thing. It can happen. I think the odds aren't. They might be a little more stacked against you.
Maybe like at more serious gyms, like I think my gym's probably at the mid-level of seriousness, but
yeah,
there's like gyms where these crazy athletes are all working out at. I could see it being more of a thing there, where like that's everybody's way of life. Like,
yeah,
that's
what about
take care of their body.
What about a place like Orange Fitness where there's like a lot of classes? Like,
so that's where I feel like it'd be a lot easier to date people. So my gym used to have a bar class in it, and I used to go to bar class before or after every single workout. And I got 3 dates out of that over the course of like years, but still, like, I went on dates with girls because there's a meeting period, like you show up 5-10 minutes before class where you talk to people. Then in class, like just like the gym, you're really not going to talk, but then afterwards everyone's leaving, you have time to talk again. So I think like Orange Theory, it's kind of the same concept where you have time to get to know people a lot more. There's a start and end, and everybody leaves at the same time, comes at the same time. Like there's just more time to talk and get to know people.
Yeah, absolutely. I thought the same, when I was briefly in gymnastics, even though at the time, like, it didn't even really occur to me. I don't know where my brain was that, oh, this would be a great resource to meet women, because I was the only guy. So there was that, and it was kind of the same thing where, you had, everyone was kind of doing their own thing, but you also had, an instructor, and you had a lot of people teaming up to help each other out. Like if you're doing like a handspring or something like that, you might have someone there to spot you. Or in my case, since I was pretty new, just getting tips. And then like, when I was taking, stretching classes, and it was kind of the same thing. And so like, yeah, that you see the same people, you make a little conversation. There's a lot more interaction, and you're exerting yourself a little bit, but there's a social interaction going on too. And so I think it's a lot more welcoming environment. And in stuff like that, where there is where you are taking a class, people aren't on their headphones and listening to stuff. Exactly. So there is that too. Yeah. You have their attention. Yeah, Yeah, it's just different. Anytime Fitness, I think, is kind of, I would consider it mid level as far as like a chain, a franchise of a gym goes, kind of like your Snap Fitness or something like that. There's definitely, I think, like, it's not a Lifetime Fitness, put it that way, where I feel like there's a much bigger investment, but it's also more, I feel, family oriented.
It's interesting. Like we had a episode on, maybe I think 2 episodes on dating online dating.
Oh yeah.
And I hear at least like that people in their 20s and 30s are meeting less and less on the dating apps, or using them less. So I'm kind of curious, like where the younger people are meeting each other nowadays.
Oh, interesting. You think that's a product of the pandemic ending?
Oh yeah, I think it's a product of the pandemic. Like everything changed on the pandemic.
Yeah,
and I think it affected online dating a lot.
So maybe there's hope for the new generations. Like,
would have taken an uptick during COVID, but
yeah,
I feel like the 20 whatever the generation is, Generation Zers, I don't know who's early 20s. Like they're drinking less. They're not doing online dating. I think those are facts. I don't know. Fact check me, please. But it's,
post your comments.
It's interesting. Like where then, or maybe there's not dating as much as our generations were. Like, I don't know.
Interesting. Yeah, I would. Huh. So, well, by younger generation, are you like, what age range would you say?
Just like out of college, like
okay,
mid-20s to mid-30s, let's say. Okay.
So, because I know that my girlfriend's daughter, she's used various apps I've never heard of, and for proper reasons, being that I don't, I'm not accustomed to apps, and but she used one called like something like coffee and bagel, or donut meets bagel, or something. There's some bagel.
Coffee meets bagel.
Okay, right. So she met her previous her ex-boyfriend, who she dated for years, using that app, and then I don't know if she used Tinder, but she goes on a fair amount of dates, or has dated using apps, and I feel like every time I talk to her, it's a different app of some sort. And it just blows my mind that there's so many, always new apps. I think Tinder's still a thing, isn't it? Is people still using that?
Still being a person on dating apps and doing that for a while. Like, it really doesn't matter what app you're on. I feel like it's all the same people on every app.
Okay.
Like,
yeah, and
at least in my age group, that's what it is.
Do you have to pay for a lot of those then? Or is it... Oh shit, I lost Danno. He froze again. Wait, here, I kind of heard him. He's going to come back. Wait for it. I'm just going to talk for him. Well, as a matter of fact, there's a lot of free apps, and you don't have to pay for all of them. In fact, if you like that coffee meets bagel one, I believe that there's a free version of that. No, there you. I was just talking for you. I was putting words in your mouth.
I heard every word you said, but your face froze for me. So
okay.
I'm curious to see like what the people will see. Like,
well, the feed is what they'll see is exactly what I see.
Oh, okay. So I get the frozen face. We don't get your frozen face.
It's all right. It's all right. We'll fix that in post.
Just like put some markers on it, like color me.
I'll just animate just the mouth, like they do with like the orange thing. Nice. But right before you froze, I was just asking about like how many of those apps are they free, or do you have to pay for all of them? Or
most everyone is free, and then within the app you can pay for like unlimited likes, or you can see all of your likes, or you get more choices in a day. Like there's all kinds of up charges for things.
Okay, gotcha. Oh, that makes sense. It's a tier system. When I used eHarmony, I remember it was just kind of all or none. Like you could create a profile, you could do your questionnaire thing, But if you wanted to interact with anyone, like a message or whatever it was, then you had to pay.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay.
That was, I don't know.
That's a different system.
I don't even know if eHarmony still exists, but that was a bear of an app, and it worked. You knew going into that because it wasn't cheap. I'm trying to remember if it was like $30 or $40 a month, and but you knew that everyone on there was absolutely serious. That was the one thing that was going for it, because if you had to go through all these hoops just to get to this point, yeah. So, but yeah.
Well, I guess we have a online dating apps episode 3 coming up.
Oh no. I got to do some research if we're going to do something like that. Yeah. But yeah, so I think that about wraps up what, our thoughts on the concept of meeting someone at the gym. I think it's definitely possible. It's just a big uphill battle. But then all the stuff that comes with it. I think there are better avenues. Until then, I'm going to keep my head down. Yeah.
Yeah.
Keep your head down, keep your eyes averted, and you'll be just fine. Just don't run into anything. Yeah.
Right. Yeah.
But
that's an interesting world out there.
Indeed. All right, everyone. Well, if you stuck with us for this entire time, or if you just cut to this last snidbit right now, thanks for watching this ending. And we'll see you in the next episode of Guy Talk. Take care.
Thanks, everyone.